But my Wally of the week is Kamala Harris. Of course, it's 4th of July this week. Everyone's celebrating the United States, but some are a little less celebratory.
Those explorers ushered in a wave of devastation for tribal nations, perpetrating violence, stealing land, and spreading disease. We must not shy away from this shameful past.
Interesting.
You can acknowledge that it was difficult, but you also need to celebrate the remarkable country that is America. I just cannot imagine if she was actually the president of the United States.
But never mind that, but who was there before the people, tribal nations as she called them? Who was there before? I mean, when does it stop? This is some of the arguments are just so vacuous amongst these folk, because it seems that the only invasion, the only colonisation, the only victories that they seem to object to are by white folk. Well, because when other tribes, other nations colonise an area or dispossess the indigenous people, it doesn't seem to be an issue. It's only if you can somehow blame the West.
Exactly. But this is the incoherence of the logic. There is no logic in the left, we know that. But there's the idiocy of this idea that it's the same here in Australia and it's the same in Canada. The idea that, so the white Europeans, they were basically immigrants, if you like. They came into this country that, you know, they weren't there, they moved in, they brought their things. They brought disease and terrible cultural habits and devastation and wrecked what was there. But modern migrants who come in, oh, no, that's the best thing you could possibly have. And anything that might have been wrong...
Diversity is our strength.
Exactly, diversity is our strength. Anything that may have been wrong over in the countries they left that all behind. So it's two separate, completely separate mindsets, yet they can hold these two completely conflicting passions and beliefs.
And how did these people treat each other before colonisation? How did the Aztecs treat babies? Talk about the levels of infanticide, human sacrifice. It was horrific. The West, with our Judeo-Christian values, we really did bring the morality and the human dignity that we enjoy today, that the left, with their obsession with human rights, claims to stand for.
Well, this is the thing with the tribal nations, because, again, when you do these acknowledgement of countries, even in North America, it's, well, which tribal nation are you acknowledging the one that dispossessed the one before it? Because they fought each other and those fights were brutal, and yet we've got this sort of noble savage view of that time, and they're given a pass. There's no human rights abuses in that era.
Exactly, and there's 3 books written by Roger Peston and Marita Punchin, which you've talked about on the show before. They've been guests on the show, called The Whole Truth. And they put these 3 books together, and it's documented. Well, you can argue with it, disagree with it, doesn't matter. It's documented sources from farmers and from academics at the time, looking at what was actually going on in Indigenous Australia prior to European settlement. And there were some very horrific things. You mentioned infanticide or whatever, but these sorts of practices were happening, according to this book, The Whole Truth. Now, we never get to discuss that. So the URUC, whatever it's called, Commission in Victoria, which is now doing the treaty and truth-telling, they will tell a truth, but they won't tell the whole truth. And they will never talk about the negative side. And this is the same with the Indians in America or in Canada. You have to look at the negative things that were improved by European settlement as well, if you're going to be honest.
Absolutely. Now, I've got another Wally of the Week nomination. The Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, put out this tweet. Of course, he... close comments on it. No one could comment. Because look at that. This is a mayor of a crime-riddled mess of a city, and look at those flags. I mean, is that some conquering nation that's taken over London? When does he celebrate the Union Jack being flown in such a fashion? So, again, Sadiq Khan is quite happy to push the politics of the radical gender theorists, but at the same time, he doesn't acknowledge that the very significant Muslim community in England has got some very uncharitable views of even just gay people, never mind the rest of the alphabet. And there's been some polling on that is really quite disturbing about just how intolerant some members of that community are, a sizable portion, to members of the gay community.
Absolutely. Now, you brought this to my attention, another one, Rita. It's more a campaign than a person who's a Wally of the Week, but this is...
One is a woman behind, the artist behind it.
So you tell the story.
Well, they've got issues with groping and unwelcome attention in this little German, not so German town. Yeah. But let's have a look at the campaign they're running. This is one of the images. The victims you will see are always people of colour. And there, you've got some red-headed girl in a bikini groping
a dark-skinned man.
With a wooden leg just out of nowhere. In all of these images, it's the people of colour who are the victims, the whites are the perpetrators, and again, it's a little bit divorced from reality about what's actually happening, judging by
So who was the woman behind this campaign?
Well, she looks exactly like you would expect. Far lefty, straight from Central
So now, Freya, the exciting... You've got to cast your vote for the Wally of the Week.
Oh, that is so hard. I mean, I really like the Sadiq Khan one, and I love that every year on Pride there's a new flag. Like now we've got the circle and the yellow.
And the square.
What does this stuff mean?
And people who march under these banners don't know what half of the stuff means. I'm going to vote along with that. Sadiq Khan gets our Wally of the Week. I hope we need to do a presentation. We need to go to London.
We need a little trophy.
Sky producers, we need to go to London to do a presentation to Sadiq Khan. Oh, I'm up for it. Are you up for it, Rita?
I think we need a trophy of some kind.
Fantastic. We'll build a nice trophy and we'll go and visit Sadiq when he gets off his Pride March and we can give him that for that.